At peace with your virtual life. People are genuinely lazy. Think about all the inventions we have made: the washing machine, the oven, the car, and so on. All these inventions were brilliant and they became successful because they simplified our everyday lives, helping us to have more time for other things. However, even if our lives are easier than our ancestors, we seem to find it harder to be appreciative. What happened to our happiness? According to studies, people today are much less happy. Anxiety disorder, mental illness, and depression is much more common than it was when everything was actually more depressing. We are obsessed with perfectionism. We want to have the perfect body, be perfectly happy, rich, funny, smart, witty, better, better, better. Be more productive, bring better results, post perfect pictures on social media about your perfectly nutritious breakfast, hop in your perfect car, and whistle happy melodies to get in perfect time to your perfect workplace. Who has time to comply with all of these ideals of perfection? Nobody. Not even those who make a living promoting their perfect life on different sites. The idealized perfection we all chase does not exist. It's all fairy dust. People invest so much time and energy to chase some utopist happiness vision where the sun always shines and bunnies jump around. Ironically, the more they invest in pursuing this vision of perfect happiness, the more disappointed they get. Why? Because chasing perfection reminds them of their imperfections, inadequacy, and not being good enough. For example, all the time you strive to have nicer hair, you subconsciously know you do it. Ironically, the more they invest in pursuing this vision of perfect happiness, the more disappointed they get. Why? Because chasing perfection reminds them of their imperfections, inadequacy, and not being good enough. Perfectionism is a weakness. Consumer society is built upon exploiting this weakness. They sell you the idea that the road to happiness leads through a bigger car, better job, better looking partner, more expensive clothing or food. The keyword is more. Certain companies, clothing, and tools become status symbols, and people, like sheep, start to baa, echoing the message of the commercials. My hair will look better. I will be happier. The problem is that you won't. Why does social media affect us so much? Have you ever posted something on social media and found yourself a little overly concerned with repeatedly checking in to see how many likes it received or what comments it was getting? If so, it turns out that you just might be human. Humans have always been social beings. We have been better together than on our own. It's part of our nature and it contributes to our survival and well being. From the beginning of history, people have lived and traveled together because it isn't humanly possible to completely survive on our own. From the Native Americans living in tribes near water sources so they could work together to hunt, fish, and offer each other protection, to the wagon trains of people traveling westward together to stay safe as they moved across the United States to their new homes, to families today that form neighborhood watches, carpool groups, and join together in community service projects, as well as everyone else in between. We have always wanted and needed to band together and sought to fit in and belong to a group. Today, social media is no different. We are more connected than ever before, and social media simply makes this connection more visible. There are dark sides of this overly opened and easy to follow virtual reality. Studies have been conducted of the pitfalls of social media. They often point out that our self confidence and self esteem may be too tied to how we think people perceive us and our post on social media. There are some different opinions in the scientific field than of those experts who connect diminished self esteem to social media. While it is definitely important that we carefully monitor ourselves to ensure that our sense of self worth comes from within and not just how many likes we receive on our social media accounts. Psychologist Dr. Max Blumberg doesn't believe social media is completely changing the essence of who we are as some have feared. He believes that social media just makes the feelings and behaviors that have always been within us more noticeable. Dr. Blumberg believes that how social media affects us depends a great deal on our individual personalities. Some people are more reliant upon external approval for their happiness than others. This has always been the case even before social media existed. He doesn't think that the prevalence of social media in our lives has made a greater percentage of the population insecure. It just has made their insecurity more noticeable because now they have a visible outlet to share their inner feelings that they didn't have before. Dr. Blumberg points out that social media gives us a way to openly express ourselves and our inner thoughts and feelings. This is a chance we didn't always have. It's true that when we share things on social media, we do open ourselves up to the possibility that we will receive negative feedback from others, which can be scary, but we also open ourselves up to the possibility of receiving praise or positive feedback as well. He stresses that social media is like anything else that should be used in moderation. Self awareness is key. If we find ourselves being too concerned and consumed with checking our technical devices to see what others think of our post, it is a definite signal that it is time to step back and take a break. While it is natural to be concerned to a degree about how others think and feel about us and to want their approval, it can't be where our whole identity and self of worth comes from. We still have to be comfortable in our own skin with or without social media in our lives. Dr. Blumberg's viewpoint is worth considering. Today, the majority of people either immerse themselves in social media or they hate it, reject it, and are very negative about it. Think about what relationship you have with your virtual reality. Make sure social media serves you and your best interest, not the other way around. The relationship between the pursuit of happiness and social media. When you fail to accomplish something, you feel sad or bad or angry. That's okay. It is normal. The problem is that people think it is not normal. You start thinking that something's wrong with you. There must be that girl could make the perfect hair picture and you couldn't. And she's happily sipping a rainbow unicorn cocktail in some club called the Billionaire while you sit at home munching some generic Nutella and watching a baking show. You think you are sad and boring, while everyone else out there is awesome. Seeing the greatest moments in other people's lives makes you think that your life is even worse than you thought it to be. Voila, the cocktail for feeling inadequate and unhappy is ready to be served. Whatever you see on social media is not real, at least not as real as you think. Social media is like a camera set on Mount Everest and only takes a photo when you reach the peak. Everything that is below that point is unnoticed. If someone scrolls through your pictures, they will only see those moments when you reach the peak of the mountain, when you skydive and look good doing it. 1 in 500 pictures. When you regained the beach body after giving birth, people will see only your best moments, but they will compare their regular life to those best moments. This is where the real danger lies. People know everything about their own memories, the good, the bad, the boring, and the ordinary, but only see your best ones. It is almost impossible to not feel inferior. What is the way out from this insanity? Clear your thoughts and look at social media objectively. Whatever you see online has zero effect on your life. Even what you post has no effect on your life. You can post a smiley picture with a teary eyes. You can claim to be happy while you really torture yourself with self hating thoughts. It's not real, whatever goes on online. It does not affect reality. Focus on what matters, what has true impact on real life. How can you ditch your social media worries? Connecting too much of our sense of self worth to the opinions of others, where it consumes a large part of our day, harms our self esteem, and limits our happiness, isn't healthy. If you find yourself too worried about how others think and feel about you, there are some things you can do to break free from this detrimental state of mind and take your power back. Remember that most people really aren't thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. Everybody has their own problems and challenges to deal with every day. So, with the notable exception of your parents, the vast majority of people do not have the time, energy, or inclination to devote a great deal of their time thinking about you, let alone judging you. Reclaim your power. Don't turn over your right to be happy to the opinions of others. You are responsible for you. No one has the power to ruin your day or stand in the way of you achieving your goals and dreams and living your best life unless you give it to them. Be okay with not knowing how others feel about you. We spend so much time worrying about what others think about us that we let it get in the way of living our lives. As long as we aren't hurting anyone else or standing in the way of their ability to live their lives, we should embrace the fact that it is our own choices and actions that determine our future and happiness. How others view us usually comes from their own experiences and events that have happened in their own lives over which we have no control and very little, if anything, to do with. So, in the wise words of Queen Elsa from the movie Frozen, we will be best served to just let it go and stop worrying so much about the opinions of others. Focus on what really matters. Life is short. When we spend all of our time worrying what others think of us, we lose sight of the things that really matter. People will think what they think of you, and there is often surprisingly little that you can do to change that. Despite your best intentions, there will always be people who will want to assume the worst about you. So instead of being held back and weighed down by them and their opinions, turn your attention to what you think of yourself. Stay true to who you are. Use your core beliefs and values as your compass, keeping you on the path to happiness and a life well lived. Stop letting your fears control your life and make a plan. Human nature often causes us to live in the land of what if, where we assume the worst case scenario will always come true and it will have a lasting negative impact on our life. In fact, the worst case scenario rarely comes true, and even if it does, it even more rarely impacts our lives forever. Instead of constantly dwelling on and imagining all of the bad things that can happen if others don't like you or if you are rejected and don't fit into the group, redirect your thinking and make a plan. Say, okay, if the worst case scenario does come true, what are some strategies I can have in place for moving forward positively from it? Just having a simple plan in place will go a long way toward putting things into proper perspective and elevating your fears. Recognize and celebrate the fact that you are a work in a progress. When you unfairly compare the ordinary moments in your life to the best moments in the lives of others displayed on social media, you can choose to react in one of two ways. You can let it get you down and be too hard on yourself, or you can take it as a chance to improve yourself. We are all works in progress with plenty of room to learn, grow, and improve. If you find yourself comparing yourself to others, which at some point you inevitably will, look at it as a chance to grow and strengthen your self esteem and the way you see yourself. Take a class, adopt a healthier lifestyle, spend more time surrounded by the people and things you love the most. Live your best life. You will have plenty of your own best moments to share with others on social media along the way.